In the Pits is partnered with QBR. Founded in 2021 and based here in Texas, QBR seeks to elevate the cannabinoid industry to a new standard of professionalism and education, while also providing the highest quality product. Whether you are seeking to heal and recover from the toll that paintball puts on the mind and body, or even looking for investment opportunities through adult vending machines, QBR has the solution for you. Head to QBRofficial.com to browse their selection. QBR, they don't sell broccoli. In the Pits is partnered with 71 Designs, owned and operated by veteran Wade Martin, and partnered with fellow Texas brand Compete. 71 Designs can take your ideas for soft goods, merchandise, and casual wear and make them a reality. Message 71 Designs on Facebook or Instagram to get started today. In the Pits is partnered with Mariachi Águilas de Oro. Based in Austin and servicing the surrounding areas, these golden eagles will bring life to any event you are having, from birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, corporate events, or even a simple performance to enjoy. Guillermo Padilla, one of their trumpet players, is also a member of the Texas paintball scene. Visit them on Facebook and Instagram to check out some of their past performances, or give them a call to book them for your event today. In the Pits is partnered with Hydra. Designed by players for players, you can outfit yourself in Hydra gear from head to toe. Have confidence that when you make a purchase from Hydra, you are purchasing a well-tested and well-thought-out product, trusted by several top teams, including first-place semi-pro team PaintballFit.com. I personally recommend their Hydra Black knee pads. Purchases over $100 receive free shipping. Head to hydra.fit to browse their selection and discover the Hydra mentality. In the Pits is partnered with XTPL Events. The Extreme Tournament Paintball League is a series put on by the Luke family of Paintball Fit fame that gives the opportunity for players to learn and grow together as a team. 3-man, Challengers and Champions X-Ball, Draft Mech X-Ball, and even Youth 3v3. There's something for everyone at XTPL. Not to mention prize tosses, raffles, and the infamous paintball munching contest. Events happen throughout the year, and the prizes never disappoint. Sign up for an XCPL event today on PB Leagues. In the Pits is partnered with TexanHemp.com, locally shipped cannabis seeds. In a world where saving time means making money, TexanHemp.com, a local cannabis seed bank owned and operated by local Texas pro player Jared Sherman, is making waves by becoming the go-to source for all cannabis genetics in Texas. Carrying a large assortment of cannabis cultivars, including Texas-approved varieties for use in the Texas Hemp Program, high THCA seeds for novelty use, as well as premium genetics bred for solventless extraction, TexanHemp.com has the ability to satisfy even the most sophisticated collectors. Head to TexanHemp.com and use code INTHEPITS for 10% off of your orders. In the Pits is partnered with Pod Runners Union. Pod Runners Union breaking news. Super limited Union Tech tees and, for the first time, Fiesta medals are available online at podrunnersunion.org. Use offer code PITS for 10% off of your order. Stealing pods for undeserving teams. It's a living. In the Pits is partnered with Compete. Compete is a Texas-based brand by Jell Stewart of professional team AC Diesel that provides custom jerseys, pants, headbands, straps, tech shirts, and any other soft goods to help individuals and teams compete at the highest level. Support Texas Paintball and message Compete on Facebook or Instagram and mention In the Pits Podcast for 10% off your entire order. In the Pits is partnered with BEM Wraps. Behind every mask is a unique and creative player. Tap into it when you order your next custom headpiece. Their Build-A-Band lets you communicate with them one-on-one to make your order just the way you want, all the way down to the color of the stitch. Check out their Instagram at BEMWraps for drops and build videos of them working on orders. They offer very competitive pricing, so reach out today to get started on your own one-of-a-kind headpiece. In the Pits is partnered with Get Dat Shot. Get Dat Shot is now accepting bookings for the upcoming NXL Mid-Atlantic Major and will also be offering drone footage for the first time. Head to GetDat_shot on Facebook or Instagram to secure your media coverage today. In the Pits is partnered with Paintball Kumite. Paintball Kumite is a program designed by Colt Roberts of professional team San Antonio X Factor to take paintball players of all ages, experience levels, and skill groups and mold them into champions. The program breaks the game down into small, easy-to-learn sessions designed to help you master the fundamentals so that you can elevate your game. Newcomers to the program get a free 1-hour introductory class when mentioning In the Pits. To sign up for a class, message at Paintball Kumite on Instagram. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 110 of In the Pits Paintball Podcast. This podcast is focused on everything that has to do with the paintball scene here in Texas, from professional players and teams to new divisional programs, local tournament series, field owners, Texas-based brands, even photographers and videographers. Every week, we'll have a short and sweet episode with a new topic and new special guest. I'm Christian Dallas Smith. I'm a player for the Texas Titans, and this episode, we are going in the pits with Luke Puchalski, player for Beefy Boys and the 2023 In the Pit Award, Texas Division III Player of the Year. Luke, how are you doing this evening?
Cannot complain, Christian. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, pleasure to have you on. This past weekend was some very, very tough games, I think, across the board. I will say I think you guys got a little bit easier of a prelim bracket than we did, but overall, the level of game was pretty high.
Yeah, we probably got a little bit of a gift coming into the prelims, right? And no shade on any of those teams. All the teams that are in the elite division at this point should be there, right? There's no one where you're just like, why did you bother to register for this event? But with Grit coming back and y'all having low seed points coming into this event, it made bracket A very interesting, and it was even a point of concern for me, just kind of thinking about bringing the team into this event, that whoever is coming out of that bracket will have seen a lot more dynamic play and some different looks because you have so much experience playing in that bracket, right?
Right.
So, I have to agree with you.
I think
it a little easier.
I think it actually kind of played a little bit differently because of the experience of all these teams. We were saying before the show, 3 of the 5 teams in our bracket was either former D2 or about to be D2.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've also got Balls Out, who they won the Bunkerfest series last year in D4. And you've got TDSM, who had 2 players from Texas Demolition on their squad. So a lot of experience there. And I think that actually led to some slower play in our bracket.
I'd have to agree with you. Yeah, it didn't start out fast, right? There was maybe one match that went fast, and it was one game out of the set went fast, right? The other set was already playing slower, right off at the kickoff of the elite stuff. So it was interesting to see that so many teams kind of brought in a little bit more experience and help, either on the coaching side or on the playing side for this one.
Right. Yeah. I mean, looking at our games, for example, we had 2 games that were 2-1 in prelims, which was, I mean, you guys had a 4-0 and a 3-0. So ultimately, not that many points played. I think Grit played a ton of games, points throughout their games. I think they had 2 matches that went to 10 points. So, but just the test, the point being, the tests were there almost right off the bat. We were playing Jackpot in our very first game, who were back-to-back champions, and then right after that we played, I think Grit was our 3rd game. So it was hey, you better show up, and you better not drop your first game, otherwise you're very likely going home.
How did y'all feel going into that first match of the prelims? Were y'all feeling confident, or were you what are these guys going to throw at us? Or
I mean, against Jackpot, we knew obviously Grit and Jackpot both play at our home field. All 3 of us are X Factor teams, so we have a pretty good feeling of the play style. Jackpot plays, I would say, a much more aggressive breakout wise, and it showed. They were getting into the spots early. They were beating us in a lot of the breakouts, but the Titans love to play the slow game, and I think it we were able to just tighten up and shoot people out of their spots if they just came to our side.
Yeah. Yeah, y'all definitely played a much slower style than some teams like to, and including it, from my observations, Jackpot as well. I think they like to run far. They like to use their little guys to take ground. Um, I think that this layout was even like a little tougher to do that on. Like as we got later in the event, there was someone dying off the break like every single point. I think, right?
Mhm.
There wasn't a lot of 5-on-5 paintball later in the event, and I think maybe the way some of the gaps were set up, and also just how well that paint was shooting for this event is the most consistent I think we've had at the USXBLs. Like just like the feet per second wise, like the variance, and then it breaking on people, even though it was super humid with the rain.
Right. Yeah, that humidity definitely made things a little bit more complicated. I know for us, I had one match where I think it was against Grit. You know, we played them in a 3-2 game, and 4 out of the 5 points, I hit their guy going to the Dorito off the break, but half of those times it bounced. So,
Yeah,
like, paint management definitely was a huge factor if you were trying to be successful in that field.
yeah, that definitely got to be a factor later in the event, was bouncing people, and just you gotta be lucky to win. I think a lot of the time, right? Like if that ball
Mhm.
breaks and shoots their support guy off the back on that layout, that makes the match, that point a lot easier.
Yeah, definitely. You can do everything right, but if the things don't go your way, then you're just not going to win. And that's just how it is
Absolutely.
sometimes.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. This first question is brought to us by XTPL Events. So, for those listening that maybe don't know about you personally, how long have you been involved in the Texas paintball scene?
Oh man. One shout out to the Lookouts, XDPL events. It's my favorite like local league I've ever participated in. But as far as me, I started playing paintball in '03. I don't know if you'd say I was involved in the scene. I just got like a Titman 98 custom and played at some field that's like long since gone. It was next to a junkyard in Gainesville, I think.
Mm.
But yeah, I was literally just sitting in computer class, 'cause I'm a little older, and some kid had pulled up the official paintball website, and I was like, "What is that?" And I just knew I had to go play. And since then, I've just been hooked. Like I've stepped away a few times just because of life stuff or injuries or something like that, but I always come back. So started playing events in I guess '04, and then got linked up with Robert Jordan in '06 and went and played 7-man at Huntington Beach, and then played a few more 7-man events, and then started playing PSPs in '08. I've just kind of been in and out of the either national or regional tournament scenes since then. I'd say this is the longest stint of just being heavily involved would be since like 2018 or 19 to now. Like I pretty much play every weekend.
Right. I mean, the level of consistency over that long of a period of time, even like with all the COVID stuff that happened, it shows in the and how like consistent that you and your teams that you've been on have been like at the top level, whether it was Greed, Avarice, or now the Beefy Boys.
Yeah, thanks. I think that that you're right. Like the consistency of just showing up and working on the things that you need to work on. It's no secret, right? Like that's how you go and win events. Is you just keep on working on the stuff that's not working. And I'd say that yeah, like the last 3 seasons or so are definitely proof positive of that. We'll see how the rest of this one goes, obviously, but so far I'm pretty pleased.
Yeah. And just looking at your profile, if you go and look at someone's profile, it's not just like their best event or what division, like what color their APPA profile is. If you look
Hmm.
at the results and you're seeing a whole lot of ones, twos, and threes and fours, then that level of consistency always being like either a Sunday team or a top four team, even better, is that is very difficult to pull off over a long period of time.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of teamwork and a lot of people being dedicated to the cause, right? Like you can't play 1-on-5. So I'm super lucky to be surrounded by people who are just as passionate as me and just locked in and looking to win. But we got to get those fours out of there. Those are rookie numbers. Got to get those numbers up for sure.
Yeah, fours are the worst. It's like, yeah, I didn't go home early, but I also went out on 2 losses.
Oh my god, yeah. And you're talking about like literally like an extra $300 $400 worth of paint. I think at least with the way we shoot. I think it'd be easily that much, maybe more. And then get fourth and not take any money home. So you play a whole other match and then you just bust out the wallet and it just hurts that much more. That was really, those first two events were very frustrating. But I'm so glad that we were able to play all the way through to the consolation finals, because like that's why we're able to be in the lead now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the long run, definitely matters. I mean, at the end of the season, even though like in the event, yeah, sure, it's an extra $300-400 in paint that you might not be cashing in on, but I mean, series prize in USXPL, I think is 12 grand for elite, so it'll pay off in dividends.
Yeah. Hope so.
So let's see here in the chat. There's a lot of people in here for the support. You got Bobby Kramer saying Beefy.
Coach
Jimmy Burden. Jimmy Burden says hashtag Beefy Boys. Taylor Retro asks, how long did it take to grow the stash?
Oh man, like I grow facial hair really slow, so this has been like a year in progress at this point, I think, easily.
Nice. I am.
How long is it going to take Retro to get back to the field, though? Is the real question.
Ooh, that is a real question right there. Yeah, Retro. His next message, he said, "What's practice?" So, might be a little bit. And so let's see. So, what teams have you played for over your time?
Gosh, I played a 3-man event with a team called IT, which was like Infiltrate and Terrorize. That was my first 3-man team, and the kid who organized it got upset because we were losing and then wanted to quit. So I didn't stay around there for very long. We just played one event, and then I tried out for Team Speed that was based out of like the Sherman Denison area, and played 5-man with those guys for a couple of seasons. We went to Bunker Fest and did decently. I think it was the last Bunker Fest that they had in San Antonio before the long hiatus. Then after that team broke up, I got linked up with Robert Jordan and played with 7-man with Unbreakable. And the next season was 7-man with Texas Devils. Then Texas Select was a 5-man team, and for a brief period of time, an X-Ball team. And Paul M, that plays on Beefy now, that he and I actually know each other through playing on Select and also on like teams that were competing against each other at the time, and like always practicing against each other. After Select died, I took some time off, and then I think we made Beefy Boys after that. And Beefy Boys like was just a throw together team for like a 5-man charity event, and then we decided to go ahead and go play a PSP event, and like picked up some more guys and did that. Went and played Galveston. Then Official Devastation was another X-Ball team. Took another break. Gosh. Then was Texas Devils again. We brought that back for a minute, and then I just played like 10-man and like mechanical rec days with like the Possum Group and stuff like that for a while. I was working in school, so it was pretty difficult to do anything else. And then I got the bug again to start competing and went and played with some of my friends on Texas Twisters. A lot of them had life come up, so they had to step away from the game. And then Juju had reached out to me about coming back over to Greed. And that's actually, I left that out. I played with Greed at some point in like I'd say like probably like 2011, 2014 like time frame, something like that. We went and played some SCPAs or something like that. But I think that's everyone, Avarice, and then Beefy now, and I've guested with like BK Omen. That's about all I can think of. But that's
Don't forget the Chiefs.
That's quite a few. Yeah, well, yeah, Maple Leaf Chiefs. That's current too, so it's right. Different to think about. But yeah, shout out Matt Ingles.
And all of the various like thorny puns that 1 year in USXPL. Can't think.
Yes. Please stop. You're making me thorny, something like that. And
like that.
Yeah, those are like the longest paintball team names in paintball at that
time. It's like whenever you see Taylor Resume on a roster and the roster box just goes wide because he's got like 7 different middle names in there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. So let's see. So This question is brought to us by QBRofficial.com. If go check his website out, the QR code is here on the overlay. So what was it that got you into playing paintball to begin with?
Oh, sorry. I guess I kind of spoiled the question. So I was literally just in middle school. Would have been 7th grade, I think, and this kid was looking at paintball websites, and I saw it and just immediately knew that that was what I wanted to go do. And so I think it was right around the time of like my 13th birthday, and I told my dad, like, I want to go do this, and he made it happen. And so my dad and I actually started out playing together. But like whenever you're a kid and you're just like playing like Cowboys and Indians or like running around in camouflage in the woods, just being a nerd, paintball looked like an opportunity to do that. But actually, there's a little skin in the game, right?
Mm.
Like there's getting shot, unlike in laser tag or something. There's actually repercussions. So it's that adrenaline, and it just looked really fun, and then it was, and after that there's really no looking back. It gets in your blood, is like what a lot of people say, I think.
Yeah, or when the bug bites.
Yeah.
Yep. Taylor, I see your question. We're actually going to get to that in a little bit. So this next question is brought to us by Pod Runners Union. So throughout your entire time in the game, shout out to Sasha Zucker, by the way. He did a fantastic job on the webcast all weekend long at USXBL. So throughout your entire time in the game, what are some things that have changed within the Texas scene, either for better or for worse?
It used to be a lot more violent. People used to get in fights on the field or in the parking lot, and there would be like dye stainless getting twisted off of guns and then hitting people in the head and stuff. So for the future of the sport, it's probably good that that went away. But also, I think a lot of these loudmouth kids and stuff that like to act up, they wouldn't have been doing that in the early 2000s. I hated the balls per second slowing down. Like when I started playing, it was uncapped semi, and then we had some special stuff in our guns, so it was uncapped full auto. And but everyone was really doing it at the time at a certain level. Like playing semi-pro 7-man, I think everyone had boards in their guns and stuff like that. But I think that the rate of fire slowing down created opportunity for more dynamic moves, and also it made it more accessible, because like seeing paint this far apart in the air is terrifying for like a kid that's just trying to get into it. Also, I think that 50 cal being introduced into the sport is actually pretty cool, because you have like a low impact option, but you're already getting kind of the feel of paintball and stuff like that. But it's not going to hurt as bad as a 68 for like rental groups and stuff like that. And then if people think that they like it, they can come back and try the real thing later on. I also think that just the accessibility to content is huge. A lot of people don't know how bad we had it. Like you used to have to wait until the magazine, like Action Pursuit Games or PB2X or something like that came out, and you'd be run into Walmart or Barnes and Noble or something to buy the latest copy, and then take it to class and read it front to back multiple times, and then just have to wait another month or however many. Like I think Faceful, they put out stuff like only a few times a quarter or a few times like a half. And so now you have like, before you even get home, there's reels from the event you just played, and like the results are out there. Whereas before you'd have to go on like a forum or something like that, like PB Nation or a Flag Station. And that's something that's really changed too, is all of the big paintball forums have pretty much died off. I think M. Carter Brown is still around, but Flag Station is completely dead. Because the folks who had it, and that was a Texas paintball forum, so that was huge for the community back then. But whenever the folks that were running it got out of it, like got uninvolved in the sport, they didn't like sell the rights to anyone or anything like that. They didn't move it over to someone else's responsibility, so we lost that resource. Started leaning on PB Nation more, and PB Nation got sold to like some folks with like stakeholders, and then it got ruined by ads. So now we just have Facebook, and Facebook's cool and all, but I think it leaves a lot to be desired when it comes to like organizing and stuff like that. Like it's the user interface is, I mean, you've managed groups and stuff, and you have your own business pages. It leaves a lot to be desired, and they change things all the time too, which is confusing. So, or maybe I'm just a boomer and don't know how to use the internet. But yeah, that's a few things that changed. I guess I just rambled on for a minute about stuff, but uh, rate of fire and people having more of a community good, content availability good, and the lack of forums and resources for people to have the online community where it's decentralized from just like Facebook is a negative in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, I think especially with the 50 cal stuff, I mean, post COVID, there's been a massive boom in the amount of new players coming in, and especially at the youth level. So,
Yeah.
and I was saying for a while that there needed to be some sort of like scaling, like on ramps
Right.
for paintball, and 50 cal, and now the gel blasters are huge. Like if you think about the other like shooting sports or like really any other like high action stuff, you've got training ramps to get on there. You've got like Nerf to like
Yeah.
Nerf will eventually lead you to airsoft. Things like that. We didn't really have anything. It was just boom, straight to 68 cal, and you either sink or swim real quick.
Absolutely. Yeah, the like it's not barrier to entry necessarily, but something of the same type of quality has been lowered because of these lower impact options. And I think that like fields in general and stuff are a lot more family friendly now. Of course, I play at Fit, so it's just, I mean, anyone who's been there knows that it's just a different feeling when you're there. And I think that has done a lot for the sport. Is just kind of the coming out of the woods and it not just being a bunch of like grizzly old men. I think that has made it a lot more palatable and a lot more accessible. And having like things like the WNXL and youth and things like that gives us the opportunity to broaden our player base into like untapped markets. So it's definitely like really exciting times, I think, in paintball here in the 2020s. And like you said, post COVID, you have a lot more people that are wanting to get outside and do stuff, and paintball is one of those activities. So.
Yeah, and with the opportunities, like I mean, this Saturday night we are going to be on ESPN, and that's
exactly.
like there's been a whole lot of buzz surrounding that.
Yeah, like when was the last time we were on ESPN? Was it like 06 or 08 or something like that? It's been a long time.
Yeah, I want to say it's been around 20 years. So yeah, long time. So you personally have been playing pretty consistently since, like 2011 or so. At least that's how far back your PB Leagues profile goes. I know you took kind of a 2-year break in there in like 2015-ish. But as far back as your profile goes, your first events on that profile are in Division 3. So how does the Division 3 of like 2009 to like 2011 compare to the Division 3 of today?
I mean, it's just like any sport, right? Like if you look at skateboarding, right? Like Tony Hawk did a 900, and now anyone can pretty much like that skates at a high level can do something like that, right? Like if they're riding vert. Well, in paintball, whatever the pros are doing trickles down into the lower divisions, right? And so you see a lot more cerebral play at the Division 3 level than you would have in 2011. Like I don't know, I definitely wasn't as good at paintball in 2011 as I am today, and I'm playing D3 now and having some success. And in 2011, like I think our first event, we made it to Sunday. I think we made it out of the first round on Sunday too. And like that group of guys would not do anything. I don't even know if we'd win matches in D4 now, just because of the lack of cohesion and teamwork. It was a much more individual game. Whereas I think now, if you're going to win a D3X event in Texas, you have to play together and you have to use your teammates beside you, or you're not going to have much success at all. Like you'll win a few points maybe if you have like a really good player, but if the other team adjusts to that, then what are you going to do?
Right. And with the comment on like how cerebral the game is, I was talking to a couple of other people throughout the tournament where you just see every match, there's a whole bunch of coaches and other people with clipboards in their hands just lining the sidelines, writing down breakouts. And that level of scouting, if you go back to like 3-4 years ago, the only people that you saw scouting was like Tyler Spieths and Jeremy Zimmerman.
Yeah.
That was it, or other pro coaches that were being invited to coach at these events. But now, like every single team, at least in the elite division, and many teams in D4 and D5 are also scouting more frequently. And it's just crazy the level of like brain power that is required to do well in these like divisions, where D4 up until like 2 or 3 years ago, D4 was the intro to X-ball division. And
Right.
now you've got like all of these coaches that are scouting specific breakouts. Crazy.
Yeah, it's that's actually a really good observation, is that there's a lot more like coach involvement at that level and lower, right? Like D4 teams have coaches now, right? I mean, some D5 teams have coaches now. And I think like whenever we would talk about scouting before, you're just watching games. You might pick up on a couple of things like, oh, these guys really like to run to the snake. But like now you're actually making marks on the clipboard and getting actual data like, oh, they went here literally every time.
Mhm.
Here they like to go later in the match, right? Like we know like when they're put in a situation that they're gonna have a propensity to do something, right? Like they might try to distract you and go D side really hard after not doing that all event, or all match, but you caught it in another match where they got down points or something. So yeah, it's really cool to see the just the level of play and the amount of like commitment to learning like the craft, I guess you could say, and the preparation that goes into events. It's changed a lot. I mean, some people are still like partying before events and stuff, but that used to be the norm. Like every pro team was hungover on Sunday, going into the next day. Like they partied that night and then would go out and play. And now there's a lot less of that. It's not gone, but there's less of that. And now teams are having like team meetings and watching film together and stuff like that instead. So there's definitely a shift in how serious you have to take it, I think, because like one team will set the tone and then you have to follow that example or you're not going to be able to compete with those guys, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, just look, I think our division is a good example of that, just how competitive it is, how high the level of play is. Like we had this team, Utah Bro Army, that came in from out of state. Utah Bro Army, I know like a couple of years ago, they were playing semi-pro events, which I know not all of the same players, but they come in after a couple of years away, they're playing D3. Grit, after a couple of years away from the game where they were playing like Division 2 and semi-pro, they come back, they're playing D3. Like, and neither of those teams won the event. And they're going up against like your team, my team, Jackpot, like all of these teams that are more recent products of like more recent students, more recent products of the game. And just, it's like a new age where it's much more about like the mental, like your paintball IQ versus like your physical capabilities on the field.
Truly. And I think that like that Grit, I think that if they play the next one, they'll probably be really scary, because when I was looking at it, I was like, oh, those guys have a hard bracket. If they make it on, they'll probably be making it into the finals, because of the level of experience, right? They'll win some of the points they're not supposed to statistically, because they have that experience of knowing how to work out these situations that present themselves, whereas a less experienced, a less mature team would not know how to handle those situations, right? Like a less experienced, less mature team will get up on points and then fall apart, which I think we saw some of this weekend. And that I think that poise comes from experience, right? And you can even have like a really good coaching staff, but if your players haven't been there before, then they're going to have to learn hard lessons, which results in losing.
Yep. And all of the guys, I think, I mean, those, especially with Grit, they've all been there before. So
Exactly.
and Like for my guys, this is like we've never played above Division 3, so there's still a few things that we're trying to fine tune as we're heading into next year. But at the same time, like we've been playing together for this is our 4th season, and they're like our Division 3, I guess our elite division, our Division 3 is not the Division 3 of the rest of the country at all.
Absolutely not. And I think people are learning that pretty quickly now, right? But and also like props to the Bro Army guys for coming down. Like I did not expect them to make it out of that bracket. I figured like some other team would show out. Instead, I mean, Zone beat us last event in the semis, I think, and yeah. So I wasn't expecting it to go the way that it did, and then they jumped out to being 3-0, and I was like, oh shit, we probably should pay attention to these guys. And they played us really tough too. So it's really cool to see like these out of state teams coming down and testing themselves against the Texas teams.
For sure. Let's see here in the chat. We've got a lot more comments here. Bobby Kramer asks, who's the best coach you've had in the out this season? So I guess
in the what?
In the out, I'm not sure exactly. Oh, in the pit this season. There we go.
Oh, okay. I mean, probably Colt Bob. No hate on Coach Bob. But Colt has an understanding of the game that is like beyond his years, I think. Right? Like he just gets it, and the way that he utilizes his personnel is masterful. Like he will literally look at a roster and be like, I know exactly what I can do with these guys. And after the event, I was talking to him and just kind of getting his perspective on some of the stuff that went on over the course of the event and kind of like how he utilized our roster. And I learned a lot just from listening to him and continue to do so. But I'd say probably Colt. But I'm super appreciative to anyone who's bothered to pick up a clipboard in our pit this season, be it Bobby, Thorne, Ice Baginski, J Money, or Colt. Yeah. We can learn something from any of those guys.
Definitely. And just one quick shout out for my team, Dylan Strickland, who's usually like a big presence on the field. And believe me, he is it. When he's on the field, like you feel comfortable, at least when you're wearing a Titans jersey. But he put down his marker and he picked up the clipboard for this entire event, and I think he did a great job. So shout out to Dylan. I know personally that is a very difficult role to fill.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was surprised to see him not playing this one. I was curious what the decision making was behind that, because he definitely connects you guys, I think, across the back line and shoots really well off the break, doesn't he?
Definitely. So this one's brought to us by BEMRAP. So in 2011, you were playing Division 3. As the years went on, getting to 2019, you were playing in some Division 5 events, and I'm sure there were some events that year that also didn't make it onto your PB Leagues profile. And then going since then, you went back up the ranks to now where you're playing Division 2. So do you think starting like playing those high divisions so early was more beneficial for your playing ability in your career? Or do you think that playing the lower divisions is definitely where you should start out at?
Man, so a lot of people feel very strongly that you should just move up each of the ranks as you go now. Like that's kind of it's very prescriptive, right? They think that you should start in, was it D6 now? I think
D6 is the 3-man. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember when they added D4 and everyone was freaking out, like, you're ruining the sport. But like, no, because jumping into D3 was scary. I mean, you had to play like really brutal teams that would beat the shit out of you. And prior to having a PB Leagues history, because NPPL had their own ranking system, and they didn't want to pay for the APPA, right? And so I was playing like D2 7-man events, and then we jumped up to semi-pro just because we decided that we wanted to play at the highest level we could and didn't care. I don't know that I would recommend that to anyone currently, even though you do see some teams jumping into semi-pro this season. I mean, semi-pro is a very congested division in the NXL now. But I wouldn't change anything about the way that I did it. But I think if I was coming in now, I wouldn't, like if I had like a younger brother or something that was coming up, I would not advise them to go play like a D2 event right out the gate, right? Like there's things you learn along the way, I think is something that some people are saying. Like you figure out like your fundamentals and stuff while you're playing in the lower division. And then as you move up, you can work on like actually working together and like teamwork and stuff like that. And then you start really fine tuning that stuff probably whenever you get to D3. Playing deep into events is also a very beneficial experience, right? And like if you just jump into the deep end, you're gonna get knocked out in the prelims, and you don't get that experience of waking up on Sunday and knowing it's either win or go home, right? And I think that there's a lot of nut cutting there where the just being there and feeling that intensity and honestly like losing first thing on a Sunday, like getting ochoed is what we call it in the camp lately, like getting ochoed. So just losing in like that first round, right whenever you get out of the prelims, it sucks. Like it's like why did we show up, right? And it gives you a lot to think about and work on going into the next one. So I think it's probably better to kind of go with the structure of the divisional ranks, but also I might not know what I'm talking about, and just do whatever you want and figure it out.
I mean, looking even Division 5, which is like the new intro to X-Ball division, which I think D5 X-Ball didn't start until like 2021, if I remember correctly.
Something like that.
Like you've got teams in there like the Gunners D5 who have gotten a second place and a first place in NXL this year, and I think have won a USXPL and maybe podiumed in another one. Like that is the intro to X-Ball division. That team's coached by Jesse Stevens.
Yeah.
Like the barrier into D5, like D5 is not what it used to be, where it was, hey, you're going to come play race to 2. You'll play like a point every 45 minutes or so and just figure out the very basics of tournament play. Now with like Division 5 is incredibly tough. And I think that at the addition of D6 3-man, it's like we once again have that, like, okay, you can dip your feet in. This is what it's like to be in a competitive setting, things like that. But man, D5 nowadays is insane.
Yeah, and like, D4 was similar to that before too, right? Like D4 was like the joke league, and it was only 5-man before it was ever X-Ball. And then now D4 is really challenging, and the top teams in D4 could do really well in D3, right? Like they might not go out and win, but they're going to ruin someone's day over the course of an event, most likely. And then now if you look at like D3 teams, you could take the top probably like 6 or 8 D3 teams, and you could throw them into a D2 NXL event, and they're going to show that they actually know how to play, right? Like it's not, no division is just devoid of talent or like a competitive team anymore.
Right. I mean, especially in Texas. I mean, look at you guys.
Yes.
You guys, I think, are the prime example of that, like being all Division 3 and then going to play Division 2 in Lone Star and making it all the way to the finals.
Yeah, that was a really fun one. I think probably some teams slept on us, to be honest. Like just seeing, like, you look at the roster before you play the team, and they're like, "Oh, these guys, like, why'd these guys do this? Like, why'd they decide to?" And like, I know that, 6 or 7 months ago, the question was, "Oh, you guys are gonna go play D2? Like, what inspired that? Like, why would y'all do that?" And then we were able to prove that what we thought was the truth was correct. That we could compete in D2, and it came down to double overtime 1-on-1, and I got blasted, and so the brave guys won, and we took second, but that was a really fun event.
Yeah, I mean, that was
and y'all won that, didn't you?
Yeah, we did, but those conditions in that field were something else to overcome all on its own. But
that stuff doesn't bother me. When it starts raining, I feel even more confident that we're gonna win, honestly. And that comes down to like that whole like experienced teams thing versus people who are new to the game that just don't know how to like manage their pods and things like that, right? Manage
Right.
their paint, keep water out of stuff, anything like that. And or knowing that like the field's going to slow down considerably, and that a super aggressive team probably isn't going to have the same results that they would on a faster field whenever it's dry and 90
Mm,
degrees.
for sure. So let's see. This next one is brought to us by Mariachi Aguilas de Oro. So earlier this year, during the In the Pits Awards, you were the winner of the Texas Division III Player of the Year. So how was that experience for you?
That was very surprising, but it was a really cool feeling. Like, it was validating, you could say, because a lot of work goes into just being somewhat successful in divisional paintball, and so to get a little bit of recognition for that was really cool. And I'm really appreciative of you for putting that stuff together. Um, and It was also like really rewarding to see that my teammate, like my brother Thorn Smith, got the runner up, because like if we didn't have a Thorn on Beefy Boys, the culture of the team, the level of play of the team would not be the same. And so to see like both of us representing for our brand essentially, that felt really really good. And it's cool to see that there's a platform that wants to expose like that divisional story and things like that, because that's something that's not traditionally been told, right? All the paintball media when it comes to tournament paintball is typically around the pro division, but semi-pro on down has a lot of really interesting storylines and drama and all of the other fun things that come along with sports.
Yeah, I mean, people have been saying for a couple of years now that Texas is the new mecca of paintball. Um, but now we get to show them why, with
Yeah,
things like the award show, which I was like, why don't we have this? We are the biggest and best regional, or like biggest and best region in the world as far as paintball is concerned. We need to be highlighting all aspects of it. So
absolutely.
it was a lot of fun to get to put that together. I thought you were definitely very deserving of the award, you and Thorn. Um, and yeah, I'm excited for the award show for next year, because I think we're gonna
Yeah,
see an even tighter race for some of these awards.
yeah. I'm really curious to see how that shakes out too. It should be pretty interesting. And you're absolutely right, because you'll have all these series coming to a close, and there will be the teams moving up and people switching teams and all that stuff in the off season, and then you have the award show, which is just like one more wrinkle to that.
Mhm.
So I'll be looking forward to that for sure.
Definitely. And speaking kind of on that topic, this one's brought to us by Paintball Kumite. So during the off season, there was a huge shakeup when there was a split in the Greed Avarice camp, and you, along with several other core members of Greed, left to reform this team, the Beefy Boys. So can you tell us more about what was behind that
Is that what
move?
happened? Uh, okay. Give me a second. So what people didn't know is that there was actually quite a bit of unrest for about 2 seasons in the Greed camp. Um, and it really came down to like, I think, just like personalities and maybe like people's philosophy towards how they approach certain things. But we actually all got cut, so we didn't leave. We all got cut, and a majority of us got cut. So that was a decision that someone in charge made, and um, it was definitely time for something to break loose. And I'm proud of the fact that like everyone was so surprised. Only people very close to the team that also uh, like just understand the dynamics of a team in general. So people who are like a little bit more like, I guess, like wise, you could say, they knew that there was friction. But other people just thought that we were just out there beating the shit out of everyone. Um, well, maybe that's a little bit of hyperbole, but we were being very competitive. I mean, we won 2 series in the same year. So to go from winning 2 series in the same year to like cutting the majority of your roster is pretty wild. But I guess he wasn't having fun anymore, and we were wanting to bump up to D2 and play at least a couple D2 events this season. And I think he just decided that he wasn't up for that. But you'd really have to ask him because he's not a big communicator, and so I have not had a conversation with the guy since we got cut. Like I haven't talked to him, so might have to ask him. But we basically knew that the majority of those guys on the Greed D3 line and the Avarice D3 line like playing with each other. We also like just hanging out with each other and doing shit together. And so I was just kind of looking at everything like, man, I don't want to play with other people. Like, why don't we just make a place where all of the homies can go and ball? And we know that we have the recipe with which we could win if we put these guys together. So we set out to do that this year. And thankfully here at like the midpoint in the season, we've accomplished one of the major goals that we set, which was to create a competitive paintball team full of our friends that goes and wins paintball tournaments. So we went and won paintball tournament, and now we're going to look to do that again.
For sure.
Is that a satisfactory answer?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think so. I did appreciate the heavy pour before the question as well. I was like, oh boy, what did we get into? But Mr. Justin Cruz in the chat, he said, and it led to bringing back the OG Beefy Boys. So
yeah, shout out, Tuned to Perfection. Justin Cruz is a really good friend of mine. He's awesome. We also played together on Texas Twisters. I hope you and Maggie are doing well, Justin. I love you, man. And let's go either shoot some people or drink some whiskey soon.
Love it. So for you guys, I mean, the move seemed to work out pretty well. And this one's brought to us by Jared Sherman at TexanHemp.com. So this year, the Beefy Boys played up to Division II at the NXL Lone Star Major. And you guys took second place in your first event in the division. So were you guys expecting to do so well so quickly in the new division?
We knew we could compete, right? Like, we got to practice against teams like Fit, who were historically dominant last season, and also Shut Up, who did phenomenally in D2 last season, right? But also we were really like the last season of Greed, it was literally just Greed and Avarice sparring every weekend. Like most of the time we were just practicing each other, and we feel like we get a very clean practice that way. And we have an opportunity to focus on the things we want to focus on, and then deliberate and talk about like, hey, you were probably shooting too high. Like you get a lot more information whenever it's your guys that you're playing against, right? But man, maybe that pour is a little too heavy because now I'm getting off topic. So apologies. But I don't think we expected to be like, it wasn't like, oh yeah, we're going to show up and win, or we're going to show up and go to the finals. But we knew that if we put the stuff together, that we could be competitive and we should make it onto Sunday. Like we felt like we should definitely make it onto Sunday. But then we just kind of rode that momentum, right? We came into Sunday, and I think we faced Underground the first match, and like that's a very well established team with a lot of talent, and they have a support system that travels with them. So like that team travels well, and they're not new to it. And we took them to overtime, and then we took them to double overtime, and then Gabe Sutherland won a 1-on-1 in double OT to win it. And he was a D4 player that we picked up off of Dallas Pirates, which I don't know if a lot of people know, but like Dallas Pirates was almost like a sibling to the Greed camp for like the couple years leading up to this season. So yeah, Cameron Peterson now is, and a couple of the other guys like Garrett, Huffstetler, and Gabe, and Smokey Joe from the Pirates are all affiliated with Beefy Boys now. And yeah, so we didn't expect to necessarily go play as deep as we did, but we knew we could perform. And then the X factor for that whole event was Coach Bob. So Bobby Kramer, he poured his heart and soul into the preparation for the event, and it paid dividends. So, can't thank the support of our coaches and our support staff, our pit staff, enough. Without them, we're dead in the water. And but we know that we have people that have our backs and want us to succeed, and that's what makes it possible.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you guys went in after not playing Vegas, and in the semifinals, you knocked out Bear Factory, who were in the finals in Vegas. They got third at Lone Star, and then they made the finals again in the Mid Atlantic Major. So, like, you guys definitely put on, fought like some very, very good teams and sent them home early as a result. So, in the chat, Justin Cruz, he's asking what whiskey you drinking.
Weller 12. It's a special occasion.
Love it. So this next question is brought to us by FU Athletics, which is my teammate Thomas Fust. He's usually you can find him in the Snake. So throughout your entire career, do you have a single favorite moment so far?
I mean, if you go with like recency bias, this past weekend was probably it. But my first tournament win is pretty special too. So I played with, it was the Rats, which was RATX, and that was the predecessor to Possum. So I played like a UWL event with the Rats back in, I think it was like 2010 out at Cousins. And we just rolled in there and no one took us seriously. And it was like a bunch of old dudes, a few young guys. And but I got to win that one. We needed a extra body to fill out the roster. So we picked up my dad, who I don't even think had played paintball in several years. And then like I can still picture in my head him just like making it rain with the Titman Pro carbine and like shooting people, and it was just badass. And so getting to share a win with my dad is pretty special. I don't like a lot of people, their parents don't even give a shit about paintball, but he lives 6 hours from Dallas and I think like 3 hours from San Antonio. And he surprised us this weekend, just showed up to the event, and then he ended up being on pod cleaning duty the whole weekend because it was nasty out there. So, but yeah, I got to win that one with a lot of my friends and with a family member. So like Rob Odell, Robo, who's a old school like Black Diamonds and Storm player from the 15 and 10 man days. And then Robert Jordan, who I think everyone knows now, whether they like it or not, thanks to his involvement with the USXBL. And yeah, there's a few other people that I'm not going to get into the whole roster, but it was really cool. So that's probably number one.
That's a special one right there. And that a similar question to what Taylor was asking in the chat earlier. He asked, what was your favorite win or favorite tournament? And here's a question actually from Robert Jordan. He asked, who is your biggest influence in your paintball career?
I mean, it would honestly be Robert. So Robert met me. He was trying to tell this story on the webcast, but I don't think anyone wanted to hear it. But Robert met me when I was 13, or like 14, going into the paintball store here in Garland, outside of Dallas, because that's where. So he worked there, and it's the store that supported official paintball, the field. So it was official paintball, the store. But I walked in there, and I was a very quiet kid and shy, and I don't know what he did, but he got me to come out of my shell via paintball, and taught me to cheat and overshoot everyone, and to be like unapologetically myself is probably like the biggest thing that I've learned from him. But that applies to paintball too, right? Like being willing to go and make the move or just do your thing. And but he taught me a ton, and showed me what like being a real teammate was, being a real friend, and I'm super thankful for him. Like, I'm so lucky that like I just happened to walk into the store that day, and then he bothered to give me the time of day. Um, a few weeks after he had run into us at the field or at the store, he was at official playing and he was done for the day. And he saw that my dad and I were still out there, and he actually like slid us a case of All Star, which GI should definitely bring back that ball. That was a good paintball. But slid us a case of All Star, which probably would have been like $70-$80 at the field, and just like and literally like slid it and then walked off, like just into obscurity, and that made an impact too. So yeah, just shout out Robert Jordan. He's that dude loves paintball more than anyone that you know. I will challenge anyone on that. He's 60 something years old, sick as a dog, and still shows up and plays the snake. Like, show me someone doing that. So anyway, but yeah, that's who has been the most pivotal influence in my paintball career. I guess other than like my father getting me involved in it in the first place, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Robert. A couple of BCITs are popping up in the chat.
What does that mean?
So this next question is brought to us by 71 Designs. Beefy Boys took first place in the USXBL Elite Division and went undefeated all weekend long. So how did the event go for you personally?
I mean, it was we lost like 7 points all weekend. So personally, pretty damn good. As a player, I was able to hit my shots off the break and live most of the time, though I actually played kind of shitty against both y'all and Grit. The team bailed me out a lot of points those two matches. But overall, I mean, the event went great. We had to travel, which we're super spoiled that we normally get to play local events, even if they're a regional event lately, right? I mean, last season we didn't play USXBL, so we didn't have to come down there and visit you in San Antonio. And but we all drove down. People showed up when they were supposed to, and did the things that they're supposed to, and we came out with the win. The event went great, and USXBL is putting out a great product. Like, I've never seen X Factor look like that before. I mean, there's been some really good events down there, but this was next level, even with some of the hiccups along the way, be it like, power or air. I mean, just the tents alone, right? The tents that they set up. It's a huge game changer instead of just getting cooked by the sun all weekend or having to bring your own. But yeah, I mean, the weekend was phenomenal. I can't complain at all. And we ate really good food too. We found this solid pizza spot, and then Verb put us on to Pollos Asados Gallo. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that place is ridiculous. We fed 10 people for like $240. So
yep.
Yeah.
I think people are starting to find our spots. So the Titans are sponsored by that restaurant and have been for 4 years now. That's the spot that we forward everybody to when they come down. And it's so great to see that it's becoming like the paintball spot. We see like other teams there all the time.
That's awesome. Yeah, that place is super good. Like I was thinking about that today, and I'm like looking forward to going back. So like now the next time I have to go to San Antonio to play an event, I won't bitch. I'll just be happy I get to go eat really good food and hopefully win another event. But yeah, that's really cool. Y'all are sponsored by them. As a team like the Beefy Boys, we really like that name. We really do need to secure some sort of food-based sponsorship. And even beyond the name, like if anyone who's close to the team knows that like we do not fuck around about food. If you follow our Instagram, there's typically some sort of good food on the story at any given point. And like we have Paul M, or as like Jeremy Doan calls him, Chef Paul, cooking up just ridiculous meals all the time. So yeah. But back to your question, I cannot complain about the event. And even with a different not exactly the same ref crew as the last couple of events, the reffing was very consistent over the course of the weekend. There were some calls I didn't agree with, but that's going to happen all the time. But I felt like they were unbiased the whole event. And There didn't seem to be any sort of like consistent missed calls or like one problem guy. I remember seeing a guy on the field and being like, this dude really is itching to throw a major. But then later in the event, he had calmed down and started remaining in his like actual zone. And so I don't know if like maybe the head ref or something kind of coached him and like, hey, don't run all the way across the field. Like stay in your zone and do your job or something. But I thought overall like it was a great event and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yep, I definitely agree. It was cool that, I mean, X Factor has 3 fields now, and that's because of USXBL. And this past weekend was the first weekend that third field was open. And like anybody who was there on Saturday, like obviously their air compressor wasn't set up to have 3 fields running 24/7. So like mid event, you've got Alex Martinez and Mike Hinman installing a new compressor to help get the air situation back under control. And like the fact that they're just like dropping everything to do that mid event is some seriously good customer service on their part.
100%. Yeah. Mike and Alex both have it, and Tracy have it figured out when it comes to taking care of the players. And it's great to have people like them that invest back into the sport instead of just trying to extract money out of it, right? Like, I think that's actually been a problem in paintball for a very long time, is that people say grow the sport, but they don't really mean it. Mike, Tracy, Alex, people like the Luke family, they mean it and they do it. Like they say it and their actions are representative of their words. And we're really like without them, the paintball in Texas is not what it is today without people like that, right?
Absolutely. So this next question is brought to us by Hydra. So looking ahead, what is the plan for the Beefy Boys for the rest of the season? What events, what divisions are you guys going to be playing in?
So this season we are playing 2 NXL events, just Lone Star and Cup. Especially after Lone Star going as well as it did. If we were to go and play a Chicago or something like that and do well, we would actually rank ourselves out of competing in USXBL because a lot of us have over 1,000 points already. And we don't want to do that because we'd really like to win the 12 Gs or maybe 18 Gs at this finale event. But we're playing USXBL full season in Elite, 2 XTPL, 2 NXLs, and also the full XTPL champs season. So we were at the halfway mark of the season at this point. We've played 3 USXBLs, 2 XTPLs, and 1 NXL event. But that's all we're gonna play outside of. We're gonna get into tournament mode at Died Hard. Or pardon me, Christmas Vacation. It's been Died Hard the past few years, but Christmas Vacation in December will be at Official Paintball. It's an ASE scenario event, which I don't know if a lot of the people on here are familiar with ASE scenario events, but they're literally the best scenario events you can play. And we're going to go out there and kick it with our possum brethren and tear shit up. And it's going to be a really good time. And if you have ever talked to me before at the paintball field and that sounds like something you'd be into, let me know, because I would love to get you out there and show you what going and playing a scenario event is about. And we'll have like a whole group of people. We're going to cook out, we'll drink some beers off the field, and have a really good time. So hit me up if you think you want to get down with the possum crew.
Sweet. All right. And I'm assuming at Cup you are going to go back to playing D2, or?
Yeah, we're not gonna jump up a division or anything like that. We're gonna play D2 and we'll hope to win that one. But obviously everyone wants to win Cup, so that'll be pretty tightly contested.
For sure.
It's getting a little dark over here, huh?
Well,
is that better?
No, you're good.
There we go.
You're good. All right. Yeah, Justin Cruz is saying y'all are gonna destroy it, that one. I'm sure it's gonna be big finale, and it's gonna be a very good event for Texas teams.
Yeah, it's not gonna be easy, but hopefully we can put on a show.
For sure. All right. So This next question is one that I ask everybody that comes on the show. Helps me figure out who's out there, you know, contributing to the community in big ways, flying under the radar, help get their name out. So this one is brought to us by Get That Shot. Message him on Facebook or Instagram if you're needing media coverage at the upcoming NXL Chicago event. So is there anybody in Texas, either a team, a player, a brand, a community member, a project that has caught your attention lately? Who do you think deserves more recognition for what they're doing?
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna have to go with like the brand portion of that question,
Mm.
and that's going. And this is not like, I'm not trying to like say like we don't appreciate all our sponsors or anything
Right.
like that. Like without all of our sponsors, we would not be where we are today, and we're very appreciative and understand that very much. But Dirty by Designs is a pretty new brand. I don't know if a lot of people know about them, but Mike Staley and Jimbo. Jimbo's a good friend of mine through paintball, and those guys really pull out all the stops to make sure that that you have what you need whenever the time comes. So Jimbo ran pods for us at XTPL, like the whole event. At the first XTPL, he made sure while he was running the booth that we had someone running pods for us. And then he knew we had to travel for US XPL this weekend, and he had a family matter come up and couldn't travel with the team. So he actually made sure that Braxton Greer would be able to come over and run pods for us through the prelims. So yeah, shout out Jimbo and Dirty by Designs. Check out the merch that they have whenever you can make it to the next events. We're gonna have some really cool beefy stuff coming out. We already dropped a headband through them. We have our one of 20 limited edition blood splatter Beefy Boys headbands. But we're gonna be putting out some more soft goods through them, and then like I hope everyone knows what like people like Masons and Fit and High Trip brands are doing for the sport at this point, that I don't have to tell you. So a little smaller brand there for you, Dirty by Designs. They're always trying to put together 10-man and 5-man teams for local events, ICPLs, stuff like that. And they always have unique gear for sale. They'll have like paintball DVDs and like vintage stuff, Halo shells that you haven't seen in decades. They do some unique stuff, and it's really cool. So, but I'll shut up. I'll let you keep on talking.
I mean, yeah, shout out to Dirty by Designs for sure. Yeah, a lot of love for Dirty by Designs in the chat as well. It's like a couple people are also excited for those scenario events that you're talking about.
Hell yeah.
Robert made sure to, say, got to play on the red team, of course.
Oh, yes. You have to play on the red team. The Bluesers are not where you want to be. They got to win at the last Blackhawk. The blue team did, but it was literally because we had practice on Sunday, so we weren't there. They moved a bunch of people from the red team to the blue team because we were kicking their ass too bad, and then they didn't realize that we weren't going to be able to be there Sunday to continue the ass kicking, so they got very lucky and won. Oh, and we got rained out. If we had gotten to play one more mission, they never would have won anyway. So blue team sucks. Go red team. And let me know if you want to come and win with us.
All right, there it is. So I think we're getting to the end of our show here. For anybody in the chat, if you got a question for Luke, get it in now, because we're at our final question of the evening. So this one's brought to us by Compete, which is Jell Stewart's brand. Message him on Facebook or Instagram. Be sure to mention In the Pits for 10% off of your order of soft goods. So Luke, thank you so much for your time. Do you have any last shout outs or things you'd like to say before we sign off?
All right. So if you've been around the team, then you know who Mona is, our paintball mom. Her birthday is on Friday. She'll be turning 25, believe it or not. So so make sure to wish Ramona a happy birthday if you get the chance. We love her very, very much. And shout out to all of our sponsors, Max Sportswear, Charles Dean. Love you, dude. Thank you for the 20 cases of paint. with that awesome contingency plan through USXBL. Thank you for the phenomenal Airstrike jerseys. Like all mesh jerseys. Who's doing that? Not a lot of people. I don't know if anyone's doing it but him. Shout out Hydra knee pads. Keep my knees from hurting any more than they already do because of the years of abuse. And shout out to Paintball Fit. It's the mecca of paintball. Like, prove me wrong. You can't. Thank you to Mazens, keeping us with the best markers at reasonable prices. Great gear, great customer service. They offer awesome like third-party like trading options too. Just holler at them if you need anything. They will point you in the right direction or get you taken care of. And then shout out to Dirty by Designs, obviously. And then shout out Verb and No Soul. So if you need any videography or photography, Verb's the man. David with No Soul's the man. Those are the boys. So, but yeah, Christian, I really appreciate you having me on this evening, and I'm looking forward to sparring with y'all again soon, dude. I'm curious to see if y'all are going to decide to come up for the championship.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this event was it was our first one playing USXBL this year, just because of I think the proximity to NXL events has been a little bit of a concern, especially for us, like traveling, twice in 1 month, first to NXL and then up to Waxahachie, has been a little bit tough for our San Antonio boys.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we definitely had a blast at USXBL. And I mean, if nothing else, and I'm sure we'll talk as we're heading into World Cup and getting ready to practice for that. So yeah. Here in the chat. Yeah, here in the chat, Jimmy Burden popped in. He says, shout out to Luke P and all of the hashtag Beefy Boys camp. Yeah, shout out Jimmy.
Jimbo.
All right. Let's see. I think that does it for our questions and for our show. So yeah, shout out to everybody that's here in the chat. Thank you so much. Bobby, oh yeah, that is a good point. He says, did you shout out the event MVP yet?
Damn. I tried to get that guy on here, but he was too shy. So Angel Alarcon is our MVP. He was mostly the 2 on the snake side all event, and that dude connected the field. He communicated so well. He lived when he absolutely had to and connected on shots when he had to. And I mean, some people might not know that at NXL, he was playing off the bench, but at USXBL, he was a starter and then the MVP. So it's a testament to just like the work that we put in as a camp, and that, whenever your number gets called, you just have to fucking be ready and go and do the thing. So really proud of you, Angel. Really thankful to have you on the team. Really glad that Mike and I just happened to bump into you at practice like 2 years ago or whatever at this point. So thank you for getting us this dub. Yeah, shout out all my teammates on Beefy Boys. Shout out to the pit crew, and yeah, really, really appreciative of all the folks that support us and help us to get to where we're going.
Absolutely. And I think that does it for our show. So everybody online, thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to go follow Luke at LukeTX on Instagram. What other guests would you all like to see on the show? Be sure to leave a comment down below. While you're at it, hit that subscribe button. The show goes live weekly here on youtube.com/@inthepitspaintballpodcast, and recordings are posted to YouTube, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify the next day. I want to give a quick shout out to my partner and sponsor tier subscribers on Patreon, FU Athletics, Get That Shot, Paintball Kumite, Compete, BEMRAPS, Hydra, XTPL Events, Mariachi Aguilas de Oro, Podrunners Union, 71 Designs, TexanHemp.com, and QBRofficial.com. So quick announcement, I will actually be featuring on the Paintball Lounge podcast next Tuesday. They are a paintball podcast based out of the Louisiana scene. So you'll get to see me on there. And then next week, I'm also going to be flying out to go compete in the WCPPL Event 3. Once again, guesting with Phoenix Rising. They are graciously allowing me to go sandbag in D4 while I still can. So yeah, super grateful for those guys. And one last thing, hopefully here tomorrow, I'm going to be announcing the signups for the next In the Pits Joust event, which we had our first one back in December. Was a huge success, a lot of fun doing a bunch of one-on-ones. We had the cards, which affected the game in different ways. I'm just trying to get the other general confirmed before I officially post the signups, but that event will be on Saturday, August 17th. So I believe that's like 2.5 weeks from now. So I know it's going to be a quick turnaround, but yeah, as soon as I post those signups, be ready to sign up. I think we're going to cap it at somewhere between 12 and 15 players on each team. One of the pieces of feedback that I got was that it was a lot of fun, but having 25 players on each team just didn't mean for a lot of spins. So we're gonna cap the registration. And yeah, get ready to sign up as soon as that goes live. I can tell you that one of the generals will be none other than Archie Montemayor from San Diego Dynasty. Just trying to get the other general officially confirmed. It's likely going to be one of the X Factor players, but we will see. So yeah, we'll hope to see you guys there, and we will see you all next week for episode 111. Luke, thank you so much.
Thanks, Christian. Take it easy.